The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, casting a sterile glow over the empty hallway. The polished floors reflected the harsh glare, making the space feel colder than it already was. Jasmine Williams, disguised as Janet, the new cleaner, pushed her cart slowly down the corridor. The wheels squeaked faintly, the only sound in the otherwise silent building. It was past 10 p.m., and the executive floor was deserted, or so she thought. As she rounded the corner, the sharp click of leather shoes echoed behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Gerald Hayes, the operations manager, had a way of making his presence known without saying a word. His shadow loomed over her as she bent to refill her mop bucket. "This floor is a disgrace," Gerald's voice cut through the silence, sharp and condescending. "Do you even know how to clean, or do they just hand you a mop and hope for the best?" Jasmine kept her head down, her hands tightening around the mop handle. She could feel his eyes on her, waiting for a reaction. But she stayed silent, focusing on the task at hand. The less she engaged, the sooner he'd leave. But Gerald wasn't done. He stepped closer, his polished shoes inches from her bucket. "Look at me when I'm talking to you," he snapped. Jasmine straightened, meeting his gaze. His eyes were cold, devoid of any empathy. "Yes, sir," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. Gerald smirked, clearly enjoying the power dynamic. "You people are all the same. Lazy, incompetent, and utterly replaceable." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small bottle of water. Without warning, he unscrewed the cap and poured the entire contents onto the floor in front of her. The water splashed against her shoes, soaking through the fabric. "Now you have something real to clean up," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "And don't even think about leaving until it's spotless. I'll be checking." He turned on his heel and walked away, his footsteps fading down the hallway. Jasmine stood frozen for a moment, water pooling around her feet. The humiliation burned, but it was the deliberate cruelty that struck her the most. She had endured Gerald's abuse for days, but this was different. This was personal. As she knelt to clean up the mess, her mind raced. Gerald had no idea who she really was. To him, she was just another faceless cleaner, someone he could belittle without consequence. But Jasmine wasn't just a cleaner. She was the future CEO of Williams Innovations, and Gerald had just made the biggest mistake of his career. The next morning, Jasmine arrived at the office early, still in her disguise. She had spent the night compiling evidence, photos, videos, and detailed notes of every incident. Gerald's abuse was just the tip of the iceberg. Over the past 2 weeks, she had witnessed a culture of fear and discrimination that ran deep within the company. Executives like Gerald, Derek Phillips, and Veronica Wells had created an environment where power was abused, and those at the bottom were treated as less than human. But Jasmine wasn't just gathering evidence. She was planning her next move. The board meeting was scheduled for later that day, and she intended to use it to expose the corruption that had taken root in her father's company. As she pushed her cleaning cart toward the executive boardroom, she could feel the weight of what was about to happen. This wasn't just about holding Gerald accountable. It was about dismantling a system that allowed people like him to thrive. The boardroom was empty when she arrived, the early morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jasmine set to work, cleaning the room with meticulous care. She knew Gerald would be here soon, and she wanted everything to be perfect. Right on cue, the door swung open, and Gerald strode in, his usual air of superiority in full display. "What are you still doing here?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the room. "I told you to have this place spotless by 10. "It is spotless, sir," Jasmine replied, keeping her tone neutral. Gerald scoffed, running a finger along the edge of the table. "You call this clean? There's dust everywhere. Do it again, and this time do it right." Jasmine nodded, biting back the retort that threatened to escape. She had learned to pick her battles, and this wasn't the time. Instead, she focused on the task at hand, knowing that soon everything would change. By 10 a.m., the boardroom was filled with executives and board members, their murmurs of confusion filling the air. Robert Williams sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Jasmine stood in the corner, her cleaning cart beside her, waiting for the right moment. Robert called the meeting to order, his voice cutting through the chatter. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We have a serious matter to discuss." All eyes turned to him, the room falling silent. Jasmine took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Actually, there's something I need to say." Every head swiveled toward her, confusion etched on their faces. Gerald's eyes narrowed, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. But before he could speak, Jasmine removed her headscarf and glasses, revealing her true identity. The room erupted in gasps. "Jasmine?" someone whispered, disbelief coloring their tone. "Yes, it's me," she said, her voice steady. "For the past 2 weeks, I've been working undercover as a cleaner to understand the true culture of this company. And what I've discovered is deeply troubling." She pulled out a small remote and clicked a button, bringing up a series of images and videos on the screen behind her. The first was of Gerald pouring water on her, his face clearly visible. The room fell silent as the footage played, the tension palpable. "This is just one example of the abuse I've witnessed," Jasmine continued, her gaze sweeping the room. "But it's not just Gerald. Derek Phillips has repeatedly humiliated and belittled cleaning staff, and Veronica Wells physically assaulted me simply for doing my job." The room was in shock, the weight of her words sinking in. Gerald's face turned pale, his usual arrogance replaced by panic. "This is outrageous," he sputtered. "You can't just—" "Enough," Robert interrupted, his voice firm. He stood, his eyes blazing with anger. "What Jasmine has uncovered is unacceptable. This company was built on principles of respect and integrity, and it's clear that we've strayed far from those values." Jasmine stepped forward, her voice strong. "This isn't just about holding individuals accountable. It's about changing the culture of this company. We need to do better for everyone who works here." The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. For the first time, Jasmine felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead would be long, but she was ready to lead the charge. As the meeting adjourned and the executives filed out, Jasmine stayed behind, her eyes fixed on the cleaning cart in the corner. It was a reminder of where she had been and how far she had come. And as she prepared to take her place at the head of the table, she knew that the lessons she had learned would shape her leadership for years to come. The aftermath of the boardroom revelation was a whirlwind of activity. The executives who had been exposed, Gerald Hayes, Derek Phillips, Veronica Wells, and Karen Mitchell, were escorted out of the building by security, their careers at Williams Innovations effectively over. The company's legal team was already preparing the necessary documentation to ensure their termination was airtight, while HR began the process of notifying their respective departments. The news spread like wildfire through the office, whispers and murmurs filling the halls as employees tried to make sense of what had just happened. For many, it was a moment of vindication. For others, it was a wake-up call. Jasmine, now fully stepping into her role as the incoming CEO, wasted no time in addressing the broader workforce. She called an all-hands meeting for the following day, determined to set the tone for the new era of Williams Innovations. The auditorium was packed, every seat filled, and the overflow spilled into the hallways where employees stood shoulder to shoulder, straining to hear her words. The air was thick with anticipation, a mix of curiosity, anxiety, and hope. When Jasmine stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. She looked out at the sea of faces, each one representing a piece of the company she was about to lead. She began by recounting her experience as Janet the cleaner, her voice steady but laced with emotion as she described the humiliation, the abuse, and the systemic issues she had uncovered. She didn't shy away from the harsh realities, but she also made it clear that this was not just a moment of reckoning. It was an opportunity for transformation. "What I saw during my time as Janet was not just the actions of a few bad actors," she said, her voice carrying through the room. "It was a reflection of a culture that had lost its way. A culture where power was abused, where people were treated as less than human, and where the values this company was built on were ignored. But today, we start the process of reclaiming those values. Today, we commit to doing better, not just for the sake of the company, but for every single person who works here." The room erupted into applause, a wave of support that seemed to lift Jasmine up. She waited for the noise to die down before continuing, outlining the steps she planned to take to address the issues she had uncovered. These included a comprehensive review of company policies, the establishment of an anonymous reporting system for workplace misconduct, and the creation of a task force dedicated to improving the experiences of lower-level employees. She also announced a series of town hall meetings where employees could voice their concerns and suggestions directly to leadership. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice firm. "Change won't happen overnight, but I promise you this. We will not stop until Williams Innovations is a place where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered to do their best work." The speech was met with another round of applause, louder and more sustained this time. As Jasmine left the stage, she was surrounded by employees eager to thank her, to share their own stories, and to express their hope for the future. It was overwhelming, but also deeply affirming. For the first time in weeks, Jasmine felt a sense of purpose that went beyond her own ambitions. She wasn't just leading a company, she was leading a movement. Over the next few weeks, Jasmine threw herself into the work of transforming Williams Innovations. She spent long hours in meetings with department heads, legal teams, and HR, hammering out the details of the new policies and initiatives. She also made a point of visiting different departments, talking to employees at all levels to get a better sense of the challenges they faced. These conversations were eye-opening, revealing issues that went beyond what she had experienced during her time as Janet. One of the most pressing concerns was the lack of upward mobility for lower-level employees. Many of the cleaners, maintenance workers, and administrative staff had been with the company for years, but had never been given the opportunity to advance. Jasmine made it a priority to address this, launching a mentorship program that paired entry-level employees with senior leaders who could provide guidance and support. She also introduced a tuition reimbursement program to help employees further their education and develop new skills. Another issue was the disparity in pay and benefits between executives and lower-level employees. Jasmine worked with the finance team to conduct a thorough review of the company's compensation structure, identifying areas where adjustments could be made to ensure greater equity. She also expanded the company's benefits package to include things like paid parental leave, mental health support, and flexible work arrangements. But perhaps the most significant change was the shift in company culture. Jasmine made it clear that abusive behavior would no longer be tolerated, and she backed up this commitment with action. Several mid-level managers, who had been known for their harsh treatment of subordinates, were either let go or demoted, sending a clear message that the old ways of doing things were over. At the same time, she worked to foster a culture of accountability and transparency, encouraging employees to speak up when they saw something wrong and ensuring that their concerns were taken seriously. The changes weren't without their challenges. There was resistance from some quarters, particularly from those who had benefited from the old system. A few executives resigned, unwilling to adapt to the new expectations. There were also logistical hurdles to overcome, as the company worked to implement the new policies and programs. But Jasmine remained steadfast, her determination unwavering. She knew that real change was never easy, but she also knew it was necessary. As the weeks turned into months, the impact of Jasmine's efforts began to show. Employee satisfaction scores improved, turnover rates dropped, and productivity increased. The company's reputation, which had taken a hit in the wake of the scandal, began to recover as word spread about the changes being made. Investors, initially wary, started to come around, impressed by Jasmine's leadership and the company's renewed focus on its core values. But for Jasmine, the most meaningful measure of success was the stories she heard from employees. There was Maria, a cleaner who had been with the company for over a decade and was now enrolled in the mentorship program, working toward promotion. There was James, a maintenance worker who had used the tuition reimbursement program to earn a certification in HVAC repair and was now training others in his department. And there was Sarah, a junior marketing associate who had spoken up about a toxic manager and seen real action taken as a result. These stories reminded Jasmine why she had taken on this challenge in the first place. It wasn't just about fixing a broken system. It was about creating opportunities for people to thrive. It was about building a company where everyone, no matter their role, felt valued and respected. As the one-year anniversary of her undercover mission approached, Jasmine found herself reflecting on how far she had come. The journey had been grueling, both physically and emotionally, but it had also been transformative. She had learned more about leadership in those 2 weeks as Janet than she had in all her years at Harvard and in the executive suite. She had gained a deeper understanding of the challenges faced by those at the bottom of the corporate ladder, and she had developed a newfound empathy that informed every decision she made. She had also grown as a person. The experience had humbled her, stripping away the layers of privilege and entitlement that had once defined her. It had taught her the value of resilience, of standing up for what was right even when it was hard, and of leading with integrity and compassion. As she stood in her office, looking out over the city skyline, Jasmine felt a sense of pride and purpose that she had never known before. She had set out to prove herself worthy of leading Williams Innovations, but in the process, she had become so much more. She had become a leader who truly understood the weight of her responsibility and who was committed to using her power to make a difference. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be new challenges, new obstacles to overcome. But Jasmine was ready. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And as she prepared to lead Williams Innovations into its next chapter, she knew that the lessons she had learned would guide her every step of the way. The story of Jasmine Williams and her undercover mission became the stuff of legend within the company. It was a tale of courage, resilience, and transformation, a reminder that true leadership is not about titles or power, but about the willingness to listen, to learn, and to lead with integrity. And as Williams Innovations continued to grow and thrive under Jasmine's leadership, it served as a beacon of hope for what was possible when a company committed to doing the right thing. For Jasmine, the journey was far from over. But as she looked out at the city she loved, the company she had fought for, and the people she had inspired, she knew one thing for certain. She was exactly where she was meant to be. The story of Jasmine Williams and her transformative leadership at Williams Innovations continued to unfold, each chapter more compelling than the last. As the company entered its 3rd year under her guidance, the momentum of change showed no signs of slowing. The cultural shift she had initiated had taken root, but the journey was far from over. The challenges ahead were complex, requiring not just strategic acumen, but also emotional intelligence, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the values that had brought the company this far. One of the most significant developments during this period was the launch of the Innovate Together initiative on a global scale. What had started as a local program to create opportunities for underserved communities had grown into a worldwide movement. Jasmine and her team partnered with organizations in developing countries to provide training, resources, and job opportunities in the tech industry. The initiative not only empowered individuals, but also brought fresh perspectives and ideas into the company, driving innovation and creativity. The global expansion of Innovate Together was not without its challenges. Navigating different cultural contexts, regulatory environments, and economic conditions required careful planning and collaboration. Jasmine spent months traveling to various regions, meeting with local leaders, and listening to the needs of the communities they aimed to serve. These experiences deepened her understanding of the global landscape and reinforced her belief in the power of inclusive growth. The initiative's impact was profound. In India, for example, a group of young women from rural areas were trained in coding and software development. Many of them went on to join Williams Innovations' regional office, where they contributed to groundbreaking projects in artificial intelligence and machine learning. In Kenya, the program supported the creation of a tech hub that became a catalyst for local entrepreneurship, with several startups emerging as a result. These success stories were a testament to the transformative power of opportunity and they solidified Williams Innovation's reputation as a leader in corporate social responsibility. Back at headquarters, Jasmine continued to focus on fostering a culture of innovation and collaboration. She introduced a new initiative called Ideas Without Borders, which encouraged employees at all levels to share their ideas for improving the company. The initiative was designed to break down silos and create a more inclusive environment where everyone felt empowered to contribute. The response was overwhelming. Employees from every department submitted ideas, ranging from small process improvements to bold new product concepts. Jasmine made it a point to personally review as many submissions as possible, and she implemented a system to ensure that every idea received a fair evaluation. The best ideas were fast-tracked for development, with the employees who proposed them given the opportunity to lead the projects. One of the most successful ideas to emerge from the initiative came from a junior analyst in the finance department. She proposed a new algorithm for optimizing supply chain logistics, which ultimately saved the company millions of dollars and reduced its carbon footprint. The success of her idea not only boosted her career, but also inspired others to think creatively and take ownership of their work. As the company continued to innovate, Jasmine also turned her attention to the broader industry. She recognized that the challenges facing Williams Innovations, such as sustainability, diversity, and ethical leadership, were not unique to the company. They were systemic issues that required collective action. She began to collaborate with other industry leaders to drive change on a larger scale. One of her most notable collaborations was with a coalition of tech companies committed to reducing their environmental impact. The coalition, called Tech for Tomorrow, set ambitious goals for carbon neutrality, renewable energy adoption, and waste reduction. Jasmine played a key role in shaping the coalition strategy, leveraging her experience at Williams Innovations to drive meaningful progress. The coalition's efforts garnered widespread attention, and Jasmine found herself at the forefront of a movement that was reshaping the tech industry. She became a vocal advocate for sustainable business practices, speaking at international conferences and engaging with policymakers to push for stronger environmental regulations. Her leadership on this issue not only enhanced Williams Innovations' reputation, but also positioned her as a thought leader in the global business community. Despite her many successes, Jasmine remained grounded and focused on the people who made the company great. She made it a priority to stay connected with employees at all levels, regularly visiting different departments and hosting informal coffee chats where she could listen to their concerns and ideas. These interactions were a source of inspiration and motivation for her, reminding her of the human impact of her work. One such interaction stood out in particular. During a visit to the customer support center, Jasmine met a young man named Carlos who had recently joined the company through the Innovate Together program. Carlos shared his story of growing up in a low-income neighborhood and overcoming numerous obstacles to pursue a career in tech. His passion and determination moved Jasmine, and she made a point to follow up with him regularly, offering guidance and support as he navigated his career. Carlos's journey was just one of many that exemplified the transformative power of opportunity. His success, and the success of others like him, was a testament to the impact of Jasmine's leadership and the values she had instilled in the company. As the years passed, Jasmine's influence extended beyond the walls of Williams Innovations. She became a mentor to aspiring leaders, particularly women and people of color, who saw her as a role model and a source of inspiration. She used her platform to advocate for greater diversity and inclusion in the tech industry, challenging other leaders to do the same. Her efforts were recognized with numerous awards and accolades, but Jasmine remained humble and focused on the work. She knew that true leadership was not about personal recognition, but about creating a lasting impact. Her legacy was not just the success of Williams Innovations, but the lives she had touched and the change she had inspired. As she stood on the stage at the company's 10th anniversary celebration, looking out at the sea of faces before her, Jasmine felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond words. She had set out to prove herself worthy of leading Williams Innovations, but in the process, she had become so much more. She had become a leader who truly understood the weight of her responsibility and who was committed to using her power to make a difference. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be new challenges, new obstacles to overcome. But Jasmine was ready. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And as she prepared to lead Williams Innovations into its next chapter, she knew that the lessons she had learned would guide her every step of the way. The story of Jasmine Williams and her undercover mission became the stuff of legend within the company. It was a tale of courage, resilience, and transformation, a reminder that true leadership is not about titles or power, but about the willingness to listen, to learn, and to lead with integrity. And as Williams Innovations continued to grow and thrive under Jasmine's leadership, it served as a beacon of hope for what was possible when a company committed to doing the right thing. For Jasmine, the journey was far from over. But as she looked out at the city she loved, the company she had fought for, and the people she had inspired, she knew one thing for certain. She was exactly where she was meant to be. The years that followed were marked by continued growth and innovation. Williams Innovations became a global leader in sustainable technology, setting new standards for environmental responsibility and social impact. The company's success was a testament to Jasmine's vision and leadership, and it inspired other organizations to follow suit. Jasmine's personal journey also continued to evolve. She became a mother, balancing the demands of leadership with the joys and challenges of parenthood. Her experiences as a parent deepened her empathy and reinforced her commitment to creating a better world for future generations. As she reflected on her journey, Jasmine often thought about the lessons she had learned during her time as Janet the cleaner. Those 2 weeks had been a crucible, shaping her into the leader she had become. They had taught her the importance of humility, resilience, and the power of perspective. They had shown her that true leadership is not about wielding power, but about empowering others. And so, as she looked to the future, Jasmine remained committed to the values that had guided her from the beginning. She knew that the work was never done, that there would always be new challenges to face and new heights to reach. But she also knew that as long as she stayed true to herself and to the people she served, she could overcome anything. The story of Jasmine Williams and Williams Innovations was far from over. It was a story of hope, of resilience, and of the transformative power of leadership. And as long as Jasmine was at the helm, the best was yet to come.